Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Today, we look at different cultures.
And what happens when people move from one country to another.
And we meet this woman, Joan Tull, who lives in England but will soon be moving to another country. You've moved to another country, haven't you, Kevin?
That's right. I came to Britain a year ago. A lot of things are different here. British food is different, but I'm used to it now. And here in Britain, they drive on the left. I'm getting used to that. But the weather. The sun doesn't shine much in Britain. I still can't get used to the weather. British food? I'm used to it now. I'm getting used to driving in Britain. British weather? I can't get used to that.
Winter's coming.
Yes,
It'll be cold.
I know. I hate being cold. I'll never get used to winter.
I've got an idea. Why don't we go to Australia?
Australia? Where's Australia?
Down there.
How far is it?
It's not far. Come on.
Okay.
Just think. This time tomorrow we'll be sitting in the sun. We'll be lying on the beach. We'll be Australia.
Already? It's still cold. And the sun isn't shining.
Yes, Australia's just like home.
This time tomorrow, we'll be sitting in the sun. We'll be sitting. We will be sitting. This time tomorrow, we'll be sitting in the sun. What will you be doing this time tomorrow?
I'll be at home watching television.
I will hopefully be having lunch.
At this time tomorrow, I will be sitting down in my office.
I shall be having a meeting with colleagues.
I'll be on a train to Leeds.
I'll be sleeping.
And what will you be doing in 10 years' time?
In 10 years' time, I hope I'll be living somewhere else in Europe.
I will be working somewhere.
In 10 years' time, I may be thinking about retiring.
Hopefully, in 10 years, I will be picking up a couple of kids from kindergarten or something.
I really don't know what I'll be doing in 10 years' time at all.
If my plans go correctly, I shall have retired from being a headmistress and I shall be teaching my subject again to students who want to learn it.
This time tomorrow, I'll be working here. But this time next year, I'll be back in the United States, in California. I'll be living in California. I'll be driving on the right. And I'll be eating American food. It'll be good, but I'll miss some things about England.
VSO, Voluntary Service Overseas, is a British organisation which trains people to work in other countries. Joan Tull, who lives in London, is a new VSO volunteer. Let's find out where she'll be going and what she'll be doing.
I'll be going to Zimbabwe to quite a large village school. And I'll be teaching English to 16-year-olds up to O-level. And I think I'll be a form teacher to 12 and 13-year-olds. I'll be staying for 2 years minimum. and there's a possibility of having that extended to 3 or 4 years.
What will Joan have to get used to?
I'll have to get used to a whole series, a whole raft of different working conditions. I'm used to working in quite a high-tech sort of industry that's got lots of machinery and everything, and I'm going to be going to a place that has no machinery apart from a typewriter, has no electricity at all, no photocopiers, all the things that you take for granted, they just won't be there anymore. So I'm going to have to get used to that sort of thing, really. I'll be staying near the school, which is called Cowandera, in quite a small village. It's amid sort of farmers generally. It's quite near to a sort of small town, but it's quite rural itself. And I'll be staying in a teacher's house, living with 2 or 3 other Zimbabwean teachers. I'll have to get used to not having the variety of different foods that you have here, like 20 different varieties of breakfast cereal and all the food that you could possibly want and can think of, you can have here. And the range of food there is much smaller. I have to get used to getting water from a borehole, not having electricity, which means gas lamps in the evening, which means the difficulty of preparing for the next day's lessons in poor light, different ways of getting your clothes washed, how you make your own entertainment in the evenings, because I'm used to coming home and watching television and, you know, phoning your friends and listening to music and that sort of thing. And there'll be sort of quite big differences like that I'll have to get used to.
No, I had to have 8, I must have had more than 12 actually. I had 8 different sorts of courses of injections.
I'll miss shopping for clothes in my favourite clothes stores, and I'll miss seeing my friends after work and going to the cinema and going to a club, going to parties, an endless list of things that I can think of that I do without thinking about it really, that I'm going to miss.
Joan described what she'll be doing when she goes to Zimbabwe.
She'll be teaching English. She'll be living in a teacher's house with 2 or 3 Zimbabwean teachers.
Joan realizes that life will be very different from what she's used to.
She'll have to get used to different working conditions.
And of course, there are things that she'll miss about home.
She'll miss shopping for clothes. She'll miss seeing her friends.
Joan told us about some of the things she'll miss. But what will be the biggest problem for her?
I think there'll be quite a lot of cultural differences, and those are going to be the most difficult things to get used to, because physical things I think you can adapt to really quickly. I think a different way of looking at the role of women in society is going to be quite difficult, because I'm used to saying exactly what I think about everything, and I'm just going to have to learn to keep quiet about things. But the problem with that is that I can see why you have to do that, but then if quite a big part of yourself is to kind of not like injustices or whatever it is and to say what you think, then how much is it that you're kind of changing yourself as a person and as a personality? And maybe I'll get there and I'll find that, you know, it simply is not a problem at all.
What's the training like for VSO?
What we've got here is a sort of mishmash of the reasons why you're becoming a volunteer, yeah? And what I wanted to do was kind of look at the actual the pictures you had in your head, because they overlap with your expectations, with what you expect to get out of it.
In terms of formal training before I go, I'll be doing 2 or 3 weekend courses. One will be about development issues, asking you questions about why it is that you want to do VSO. And there's going to be one that's going to be really concrete about how you teach English as a foreign language, or English in Zimbabwe.
Why does she want to do it?
I always wanted to do something that was about helping people and feeling that what you did was important to people and that it mattered. So that's the basic reason why I'll be going to do VSO, I think. I'm quite looking forward to going to a completely different environment that's different on all sorts of levels, in terms of the culture, in terms of the standard of living. I'll be quite interested to just find out how a whole different set of people live. I'm looking forward to not being in England because I'm tired of it. I'm looking forward to hot, sunny weather. I'll be quite interested to see how I fit into the new job. Just a whole new life, really, just suddenly kind of will open up.
S-Y-R-I-N-G-E-S. Is that correct? Yes? Good. Right, now let's work at putting these into indirect or reported speech.
It's a bit dangerous because I don't know how I'm going to cope with it. But that's all part of it. It's all part of kind of, you know, saying, my God, wasn't I? Wasn't I brave for once in my life? And I'll get to 30 and I'll look back and I'll be able to say, I think, God, you know, for once in my life, I did something that was just a bit unusual and a bit different.
Joan thinks there might be 3 big problems for her.
Cultural differences.
The completely different standard of living.
And the different role that women have in Zimbabwean society.
But there are also things that Joan is looking forward to.
She's looking forward to going to a completely different environment.
And she's looking forward to hot, sunny weather.
We all wish Joan the best of luck with her voluntary service in Zimbabwe.
Yes. Think of all the sunshine, the different way of life.
It obviously reminds Kevin of home.
What? Oh, yes.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.